can call on Jennifer if she knows who some of our team members are online and ready to perhaps do some detailed introductions.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to be here again today. This is one of the highlights for the RTOYS. I know that, and one for me too, because I get to hear the great insights that they'll give all of us today. I see Karen Salino and Jennifer Cepetis and Stacy Trozen on the line right now. We're waiting on Dustin Sayers and Ashley Lohr. I'm
here, Jen.
Oh, there you are. Thanks, Dustin. I see about 500 people, so I'm trying to look really quickly here. And Nanette Hansen, the Michigan Teacher of the Year, is supposed to join us as well. And I do have some questions from the RTOYS that I will be asking all of them, but I also have some questions from the RTOYS for some of you as well. And please feel free to jump in and ask any questions of them as well. So Karen, Jennifer, Stacy, and Dustin, who wants to go first to kind of give a background of where you teach, what you teach, and where you did your undergrad at, to give the DARTEP members a little better understanding of where you're from and what region?
I can go if nobody else is really wanting to go first. I'm happy to go. My name is Stacy Trozen. I'm from Region 8, so that's like Greater Ann Arbor area. And I teach at Pinckney Community High School. I'm a high school science teacher. I received my Bachelor of Science in Biology from University of Michigan, Flint. And then I received my high school teaching certification from Eastern Michigan University, and then went on to Eastern Michigan to obtain my secondary education master's in secondary ed. Is there anything else that I missed?
Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jennifer, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jen Cepetis. My undergrad was from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And I'm currently working on a PhD at Oakland University. So I want to give a shout out to them, OU. And I am at West Bloomfield High School in Region 9. This is my 18th year teaching. I am currently teaching, I like to say currently because I've taught, I believe, 21 different courses. I'm teaching now AP Government and Global Studies of Genocide and Positive Psychology, which is a course I just developed this year because of all the stress and anxiety I've noticed students are having. And thank you all for being here.
Perfect. Thank you. Karen.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm in Region 5, which is the Flint, Genesee County area and the Thumb. And I am currently teaching at Flushing High School. I'm a math teacher there. I actually have an English major as well, but I teach math. And so right now I'm teaching pre-calculus and AP calculus, and then I'm also teaching consumer math. So I kind of get a really wide variety of students, but I've taught everything in the high school math curriculum. I am an alum from SVSU, and honestly, amazing ed program there. So thank you to SVSU for getting me started. Go Cards. And I got a master's in math at Oakland University. So again, go Grizzlies. So thank you for listening to us all today, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Karen. Dustin?
Hi, so I'm Dustin Sayers. I'm Region 7, so Southwest Michigan. My path to education was a little bit different because I was never really going to be a teacher. I went to Kellogg Community College, and then I had my undergrad with Albion College, Communications, Political Science, and Econ. And then I started working with Lutheran Social Services of Michigan with foster youth who were in school, trying to get through school. And I went back to Olivet College to get my endorsement. Unfortunately, my teacher prep program doesn't exist anymore because Olivet no longer offers it. And I finished my master's from Davenport University in 2017 in data science. I currently teach at Schoolcraft Community Schools. I am a 8th grade teacher teaching US history, but I've taught everything there from geography to sixth graders to econ and civics to 12th graders and juniors.
Perfect. Thank you, Dustin. And Kathy Lambert has joined us too. She's from Roscommon. Kathy, if you want to just tell us where you teach, what region, and where you went to undergrad and master's.
Okay, hi, I'm Kathy Lambrese. I teach at Roscommon Middle School. This is my 20th year. I have taught first, second, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh grades. I left off in sixth and seventh grade English and social studies. And this year I am the fifth through eighth grade instructional coach. My undergrad and both my master's degree come from Grand Valley University. And I think that's also go Lakers.
Perfect.
Hi,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
I'm here.
Yep, you're saving the MTOY for last. So Nanette Hansen is the 22-23 MTOY, and go ahead, Nanette.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. My name is Nanette Hansen. I have been teaching for over 2 decades, from alternative high school all the way down to first grade, where I've been for the last 17 years. It's my very favorite. I received my undergrad and my master's from Northern Michigan University. I am the Region 1 Teacher of the Year, which is the entire UP. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. And I don't see any of the other 4, so I want to make sure that I'm not missing them. If I missed any 4, just speak up and we'll have you introduce them. And when Ashley comes on, I'll let her introduce herself as well. So the first question is to the RTOYS. What did the ed prep programs that you went to as undergrad, how did they prepare you best to go into your internship or student teaching, if you're from my era? How did they prepare you the best to go into a classroom of your own? What tools did they give you? Anybody can jump in.
I can go
I'll
first.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Nonette. Well, as I said a few minutes ago, SVSU has an amazing ed program, and it's been several years since I was there. This is my 31st year in education, but what I loved about SVSU's program was that I had experience in classrooms long before I ever student taught. So their placement program, and I don't know how it is now, but at that time made sure that we were in our major, we were in our minor, that we were in a junior high or middle school, that we were in a high school, that we were in a suburban setting, a rural setting, and an inner city setting. And we had required lessons at each of those levels. So by the time I got to student teaching, I had a pretty good idea of where my comfort level was, and also what things I was not as comfortable with. And so when I went to a job interview, I had a lot to talk about besides just my student teaching, because I had all of those different lessons and experiences at so many different places. So thank you to SVSU for that.
So I want to pause because Dawn Perez and Ashley Lord just joined us. So Dawn and Ashley, could you please introduce yourself, what you teach, where you teach, the region, and where you went to undergrad or graduate school?
Hello,
Go ahead.
all. I am Dawn Perez. I teach at Swan Valley High School. I've been there this is my 32nd year. And I went to Central Michigan University for my undergrad, and I have my master's degree through Central Michigan. I am a CTE teacher in voc ed for finance and BMA, which is business management. I also do coding and teach coding programming. I do audio, video, anything business IT related I can teach.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Lohr. I just finished up with some 3rd graders. I teach beginnergarten through 4th grade music in Grand Ledge Public Schools on the west side of Lansing. And I'm also an adjunct professor at Anderson University down in Indiana. And I went to Central Michigan for my undergrad and the University of Michigan for my master's degree. I did their summer master's program.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ashley and Dawn, I'm not sure if you heard the question, but the question was, how did the EPP prepare you as a student teacher or an intern going into your classroom for the first time? And Karen answered that first. And so if anybody else would like to answer that question as well.
I'll go. So as I said, I went to Olivet for the teacher prep program after, I already had my 2 degrees under the belt. But Olivet had something called Camp to the Classroom. And along with our student teaching, we had to go to Sherman Lake YMCA. We were out there for maybe about 5 weeks, I believe, but we had a different group of kids pretty much every 3 days. And we got to pretty much try everything that we had learned in the classroom and learned, student teaching on these kids. So we were able to practice, social emotional learning. We were able to get to know students, do team building activities, and then transfer those to our actual, careers. And I think that was probably one of the most rewarding things. And I think it's one of the reasons that I still go to 7th grade camp every year, even though I don't teach 7th grade anymore.
Perfect. Thank you, Dustin. Who else?
Can go. So I've got a couple of different experiences. I wasn't a real traditional teacher candidate or gone through the process in a traditional fashion. I received my undergrad from U of M Flint first, and then decided I wanted to get my teaching certificate at Eastern. As a high school science teacher, I think the preparation I had in my content area was really helpful. To be fluent in your own content is very important. And so at U of M Flint, I received a fantastic education for content. And then at Eastern, I had a biology methods course, teaching biology at the high school level methods course. And that was just a phenomenal experience. We were treated kind of like high school students, and we went through lessons. The teacher, the professor who designed those lessons was phenomenal. And to this day, 20 some years later, I still think about that course and the things that I learned and how I can incorporate my learning and my immersion in that learning into my classroom today. It was just a really phenomenal experience.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy.
I'm going to say mine. I agree with the content part. I went to CMU and I learned valuable skills in the business area in the Grand Hall. It's what I remember. And I like the methods courses and working with the teachers there and the student teachers, and we learned together and were able to get lessons and stuff before I even went to student teaching. I did go student teach at a career center, which really ties into what I do here at this high school. Pretty much we have a vocational program at a high school through lots of hard work getting it going. But I loved the student teaching and learning what I was supposed to do at that VOC Bay Area Next Skill Center.
Thank you, Dawn.
Hi, it's Jen Sapettes. I can go. My was also an untraditional way. I went to Ann Arbor at U of M, but teaching was not on my radar. So I did not go to the education program there. I was a psych major, and then I moved to Chicago and was at DePaul University. While I was working in advertising, went back to school there and received a teaching certificate and my master's. I would say there, I can speak from teaching there. I was in the city of Chicago doing work and also in the suburbs. So I had an opportunity to do both. But I did want to say now, being back in school at Oakland University, I am getting an ed specialist. I'll graduate in the spring, and also a PhD, which I'm working on as well. Has been an incredible experience to be back in the classroom now, to be back in school as a student, because I am able to relate so much of what I'm learning at OU with what is happening in my district at a level that is that just makes a lot of sense now, having so much experience in the classroom. So it's extremely valuable. So I would say even a push out to teachers who've been in the classroom, just it really helped me create the class I'm doing right now, which is in positive psych, and gave me the extra boost to do more for my kids and my students and the community. So it's given me this more motivation as a teacher. It's been an incredible experience.
I can say I loved going to Central. I actually double majored in vocal music education and English education. So I'm certified to teach K-12 music because that's a certification, and then secondary English. And so Central has mid-tier observations where you were required to go to the same classes every week for, I think it was 10 or 12 weeks, and teach a few classes through those. So I had to mid-tier in both a music classroom and an English classroom. And I was able to double count a few things here and there, but I still was able to obtain these degrees using kind of dipping my toes in both areas. That way I was more prepared for it. And something else that I really appreciated, and I don't know that it's always this way or would be this way, but there was a lot of flexibility with when I could jump into classrooms. And I did have a few things that were scheduled on Fridays, for example, but going to my professors at Central, they were able to work around some of the credits and the classes that I needed to take so that I could actually on my own go out. And I spent most Fridays for at least 4 years in a local high school and middle school working with their choirs and stuff like that. So like I would not have been able to do that had Central and my professors not had some flexibility in scheduling to help me continue doing that and getting that additional experience.
Perfect. Thank you, Ashley and Jen. Nanette, do you have anything to add?
I sort of want to mirror what Karen said earlier. I was able to do a split position where I was in a first grade and then I was in the upper L. I had the I was in 2 different schools, and I was able to have access to 2 different schools of thought. I had a very young teacher as my supervising teacher, and I had a very veteran teacher, and it sort of opened my eyes to the way people kind of progress through their career. And so it was valuable to me. Again, I was able to get into the classrooms to do a lot of practicum work and see different grade levels all through going before I went to do my student teaching, which I thought was very valuable, which I think is super important. Right now I have 2 girls from Lake State that come in my room 3 days a week, and they don't even need the hours. They literally don't need the hours, but they're getting the hours because they're so into what they're doing. And I think it's so important to, fire young teachers up and let them see, passionate teachers in the classroom so that they can kind of see what it's all about.
Thank you. Kathy, did you go yet, or did I miss that? I'm paying attention, I promise.
I have not, but yeah, I thought I really liked it at Grand Valley that we had 1 semester of teacher assisting, where we went into the school for 3 days a week and worked in 1 grade level. And that was the semester before our student teaching. And so it really immersed us in a classroom prior to that total investment of student teaching. And it was just really helpful because, I think you learn so much from that experience of just being in the classroom, more so than just the coursework itself. It just is, and you learn from so many different teachers, like Nanette mentioned. I learned from, the teacher that I was with for that teacher assisting. And then I went on to learn in a different grade level from student teaching, and, all the while taking, the coursework at Grand Valley and the support from the other students that were in their practicums as well. And it was just a really good experience. And I'm glad I got all that hands-on, that job experience before I was actually put in my own classroom.
Perfect, thank you. And Carl Brownlee, Region 10 Teacher of the Year, just joined us, and I think he's in the process of shooing students out so he can speak with us. But I want to take an opportunity to kind of switch that question now. to the RTOYS, what do you, as you take on student teachers or teacher interns, what do you see that they need more of from ed prep programs, or what do you think that you needed more of? And you know, there's different generational gaps there, so it's kind of, and I don't know whether if that transfers over from my era to like Ashley's era, two different generations there. So what do you think they need coming into the classroom now, and what did you need coming into the classroom?
Can I speak
ahead.
to that real quick?
Yeah.
In my travels around the great state, upper and lower Michigan, I have resoundingly heard that we need 2 or 3 things. The biggest thing that I've heard is that gen ed teachers need more exposure to special ed everything. So special ed, IEPs, understanding accommodations and modifications, understanding 504s, understanding their part, how they fit together, that, you know, special ed is just a program. It is not a place where your children go. It's, you know, so I think that new teachers need more exposure in the pre-service area, even if it was, you know, something like, you know, where they were in a special ed classroom for 2 weeks and they got a pass fail, you know, for finding out, you know, sitting in an IEP, understanding what a 504 is. All of those things are really like lacking. And I can see that, like Jennifer was saying about generationally, you know, some veteran teachers that have worked, you know, well over 30, 40 years, sometimes they think that a behavior child needs to just be sent to special ed. You know, they don't understand that it's a program and that it's, you know, legally bound by the law. That is the thing that has come up almost across the board in every place that I've, you know, talked to special ed teachers. And I think that it would be really important to sort of work that in to a requirement of gen ed teachers, so that they work seamlessly to lift their students up together.
Perfect, thank you. Who else would like to answer that loaded question?
I'd like to piggyback on what Nanette said about having more experience in special ed. We're kind of going through in our district a revamping of how special ed and general ed teachers are working together, at least at the high school. And I'm finding that a lot of even our veteran teachers struggle with helping accommodate student work. And that connection between special ed and general ed, there's a big disconnect. So I certainly agree with everything that Nanette said. I've had a few student teachers, and I had one that was phenomenal, and I had another one who struggled a bit. And a big part of it was the content. She just didn't have the content background to be able to support students and to then really work on that classroom piece. I think having that content background is really important, so that when you're in the classroom in front of students, you're able to really work on that stuff that you don't necessarily get in your education classes at college or university. And that's really what that time is for, is to hone those interpersonal skills with students and other teacher leaders in that building. Beyond that, I can't think of much else. I think it would have been nice. I did a semester of student teaching. I really like, I forget who had mentioned a few minutes back, but having that almost like an apprenticeship period before student teaching, getting in the classroom a bit more, so that first year when you're, you know, put in your own room by yourself, you feel like you've got those classroom management skills as a foundation versus learning on the fly.
Perfect, thank you, Stacy.
I'm gonna second both Stacy and Annette. I didn't know what a 504 was until I started teaching, because I didn't hear it in teacher prep. And to me, that's a big concern. Someone might come out and not know what a 504 plan is. It's a legally binding document there. But mine might sound a little odd, but it's the biggest thing in my opinion is that I'm secondary. High school teachers and middle school teachers need to actually sit down with some elementary teachers nobody does rotational teaching better than elementary students, or well, elementary teachers, and they still get that joy with the kids of getting them up and getting experimental exercises and moving them around and knowing where each individual group is. And I still look at some of my colleagues and they don't know how to differentiate, but you look at those elementary teachers and you have group A, group B, group C, and over the years, I've kind of taught my middle school as a little bit of elementary, a little bit of secondary, but I think that if you're a secondary teacher, you should sit through an elementary class. And if you're an elementary teacher, you should probably sit through a secondary class just so you get that experience, or even go visit, an elementary. But that's something that I never got to see because I was gonna, be the upper level and be with the high school students. But there's so much that I have learned from my elementary colleagues.
Thank you, Dustin.
I'll jump in here. As luck would have it, just yesterday, I was talking with a colleague who has a student teacher in our building. And I said, oh, great. Well, how is it going? And she said, well, we have some challenges. So I said, well, tell me, because I want to share these things, right? So she shared her meeting notes that she had with her student teacher. And to summarize, really, there just wasn't an awareness of all of the things that we as educators do every day, all at the same time, that is now second nature to us because we do it every day. But this student teacher wasn't thinking about things like, you need to have a routine when class begins so that we know this is what we do when class starts. And also this is what we do when class is ending. Or things like, what do you do during that class time? How are you interacting with the students? Are you calling them by name? Things like that. And just the whole organization of building a lesson, delivering it, and following up on it. And it is a very overwhelming job that we do, but we do it because we love it. So I think the passion is there in this young teacher, but just really having a sense of how do you build a lesson? What does from bell to bell look like? And how do you juggle all of those things that you're doing all at the same time?
Perfect. Thank you, Karen.
Hi.
One thing I would say is the time investment that I have not noticed with our student teacher here, but in a neighboring school district, they're really noticing that some of the new teachers they have gotten do not understand the time required to be a teacher. They've kind of come into this thinking you come in at 8 and you leave at 3, and they're having a really hard time telling them that no, this you do have to put in time to get the, it's not just magic. It doesn't just happen. And, and I know that when I student taught, I had a great teacher that I worked with, and we stayed after and we worked together. I don't know if some student or some other teachers don't do that, the host teacher, but it's been a real eye opener for some of these newer teachers coming in that just didn't realize that it was not that type of job, and their families don't understand why would you have to put in all this time, and so I think just letting new teacher candidates understand that this is not just, it's not that job that people outside of our career look at us, oh, you work till 3 and then you get summers off. That's not it, and you don't get summers off if you're doing professional development. And I always say I get July. I always try to take July, and that's about it. And in that you are working after schools and you have meetings. I don't think people understand the different meetings and committees and things that you have to be involved in. So I think that would be a really important thing that new candidates understand.
Jennifer. Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, I just wanted to reiterate what's already been said, the importance of special education, the 504s and the IEPs. Classroom management is usually challenging for new teachers. Also, I think being flexible with being understanding of the students who are in front of you, because teachers may not get a job in the district that the student taught in. They may have thought they were going in for maybe high school, and the job that they receive is in middle school, and it may be in a completely different area. So really getting to know the community and understanding the needs of those students and building a connection. And I would say that can be challenging for a new teacher when they're trying to put together lesson plans. They're trying to understand the content themselves, but also at the same time, getting to know the students in a way that is appropriate, especially if you're a younger teacher and you're teaching high school kiddos who may be just a handful of years older than you. So we're needing to understand where that line is between understanding that they're a teacher and you're not their friend, but you're there to build a relationship and maintain good communication. So that line can be a challenge for some of the teachers who are coming in younger.
Ashley, Dawn, or Carl?
I would say two things that scaffolding and anticipation. And whenever I'm working with someone new or someone new to elementary, I've been mentoring someone who was at the high school level for 10 years and switched down to elementary because our certs allow us to do that, K-12. And I told her, you know the content, you know exactly where these kids need to go. You just spent 10 years knowing exactly what you wanted out of these kids. The thing is that you need to work on how you're going to scaffold your lessons and how you're going to anticipate what the needs will be within that class time. It's one thing to know that content and to build a nice looking lesson plan. First, the teacher will do this, then the student will do this. Yeah, that's easy to do on paper, but if I'm doing a lesson on the surprise symphony and I have students with sensory needs, I'm going to also know that I need to warn them that there are going to be loud sounds. Do you need some headphones for this? So it's all of these little things that are really, it's learning the art form, and it's not especially easy to do when you are at a distance studying. But as you do get into those classrooms and you spend time amongst those students at different levels and in different areas, you are going to be able to pick up on that, and then that will come into your planning, your scaffolding, and anticipating their needs.
Perfect, thank you. Dawn?
Yes, coming in after Nanette and Kathy and everybody else, I agree totally with Nanette about the 504 and the special needs, because I didn't know anything until I was here. I've attended many IEPs, a year, a dozen at least, we go through. So, and you don't learn until you get here about them as into your career. And then the thing with Kathy too, that just stood out about the teachers that think they're just going to work from 7:30 to 2:30 here. You're not going to, you have all the grading to do, the lesson planning to do that you're not doing in that 1 hour prep that you get per day. So the kids or the teachers have to know that. I've had 2 student teachers in my career, and they were from CMU, and they both came in with lots of knowledge. We learned from each other. I loved working with them. They both had our success in a job. One's an administrator, one's working at a college. I stay in touch with them. I just think that they need to know more about like classroom management when you come in. As a personal experience, when I came in, I heard someone, I can't remember who said it. I was young. I was 22 and I had 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds in my class. You can't have them calling you Dawn. They need to call you Mrs. Perez so that they know, and then you need to get to know them. And I agree with that, as in there's a boundary, and you have to have, and I know I'm going to say this again off someone else, procedures in the beginning and the end. Principals and administrators don't like seeing kids line up the doors. They want you to have those procedures entailed, and the student teachers didn't know that. I know and I didn't when I first came in. So everything I've learned here at Swan Valley, I definitely was able to give that hopefully to my student teachers.
Perfect. Thank you, Dawn. Carl Brownlee, would you like to introduce yourself? And then if you'd like to answer the question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, how's everyone doing? My name is Carl Brownlee. I'm the regional teacher of the year for District 10. I've been teaching going on 25 years with DPS-CD. I teach social studies, 7th and 8th grade social studies. I'm a 8-year veteran, Gulf War vet. How about that? Did 8 years in the Marine Corps, and when I came out, I did some service work in the community with the Detroit Urban League, and also just other neighborhood agencies that I worked with before I went into teaching. Hearing, if I'm not mistaken, I kind of couldn't listen to too much because I had a class. But if I'm hearing about classroom management, having your procedures definitely is a big thing that you have to have. When you come off a break, you need to let your students know what your expectations are. And if you have to go over your expectations every day as a new teacher, you have to do that. And once they understand what you expect from them, I believe they'll start to buy in to what you're telling them. It's a culture change. The analogy I would try and kind of use is, if you look at some of the sports teams that have a bad season, they get rid of the coach, they get a new coach, and then the same team, they perform and do exceedingly well. What happened? It was a culture change. And as a new teacher going into that classroom, you're going to have your challenges, but if you can stand fast and just use the people around you, invest that time, because it definitely is not a 7 to 3 job. But that time that you invest is going to pay off down the road. I had a student teacher, and my thing was for him, at first he started to try and emulate and do what I was doing with the class. And I told him, look, what are your skills? What do you bring to the table? He rapped. And when he started to use his talents and his skills in the classroom, then the students started to buy into what he was trying to share with them as far as with the lessons. So if you're a student teacher, you also have to bring who you are, your skill set and what you've done in life. It might not be as much as us older teachers, but there are some things that you can share about yourself in that classroom with these young people, and you may make connections that way also. And always try and find an ally in the classroom. There are young people who will be your allies. Once you get them to buy in, they can get that class to buy in. So those are just some things that just from my experience being in the classroom, and just don't give up. That, if anything else, don't give up. There's a way to take care of it. You got more tools than just a hammer. Okay, so that would be my advice to a young teacher coming to the classroom. Use as many tools as you can, so you can be successful.
So let's kind of piggyback off of that, Carl. That was a perfect transformation there for me to this next question. What recommendations would you all, as regional teachers of the year, have about prepping candidates to work with students with backgrounds unfamiliar to the new candidates coming into the classroom?
If I was, I just think that you have to be relevant, and being relevant, you know, there's a saying of, keep your enemies close to you. They're not enemies, but I need to know my students. I may not, I have to go, if I got to go on TikTok, look at the latest dances or the language, I don't have to come in the classroom doing that, but I need to understand what they're talking about. I need to understand and be able to communicate if necessary. So I need to know about Snapchat. I need to know about Facebook, Instagram, because that's their culture. That's where they're at. And if I can go in there and I can, it's a way of making stuff that they look at relevant in the classroom. If I'm talking about social studies and I see what they're what their life is about or what their culture is about, I have to bring that and incorporate that into my lesson somehow. But we're just dealing with different wired young people. They are not that type that'll come in the classroom and just sit and listen to you talk. You have to bring things that that's going to catch their interest. So.
Perfect, thank you. Who else would like to answer that one?
I'll piggyback off of Carl there. So Nanette knows this. I'm a big fan of capturing kids' hearts, so CKH. And one of the things that I like to do in the classroom is good things. So the first 3 to 5 minutes every single day is good things. And then on Friday, we do whole class good things, weekend plans. If you don't know about your kids, you can't really connect to them. So if you're starting to ask them every single day, well, what's going on in your world? Or, you know, how's your family doing? It helps build that connection. Especially now with social emotional learning. I mean, that's a huge piece, but I wouldn't want to set foot in a classroom if I didn't know about my students. So at the very beginning of the year, team building activities. I don't teach for the first 2 weeks. I've resisted that. And, you know, when I first was a new teacher and I came in, I thought I had to teach my content right away. And now it's team building activities, get to know each other. They need to get to know, you know, us as well. I think new teachers who are coming in should have a presentation about their background ready to go so that students get to know about them. And then in turn, you get to know about your students. But I have a saying that I've taught to fellow teachers or students who have come in and now are starting to teach, get to know the kids' names, because you can't teach them if you don't know their names. And you just doing those simple team building activities on a daily basis, I think goes a long way.
Perfect, thank you, Dustin.
Yes, to add on to that, I agree 100%. We actually tell teachers to take the first 2 weeks and build relationships. And the same thing, it's just get to know them, you know, ask questions. We actually do activities that, you know, introduce ourselves and have them, you know, introduce themselves. I always did a slide presentation where they would each get a slide that represented themselves, you know, add pictures, tell us about yourself. I have a colleague that does decorate your locker slide. So it's a virtual locker and they can add, you know, you put in videos, pictures, just anything that gets us all to know one another. We're in a really small school here in Roscommon. Our district is small, so most kids know one another. And, you know, we get new students in, but most of them have been together for a long time. But it's just really important to build that cohesive classroom and, you know, generate that safe space, that safe environment, so that everybody feels comfortable sharing. And I think once you build those relationships, you get that even if you don't have similar backgrounds, because you know, even we're not ethnically diverse up here in Roscommon, but there's a lot of socioeconomic diversity here. And, you know, even with that, you still find those relationships are built just by taking that time, those couple of weeks to get to know one another and create those safe environments so students know that you care and that you are there for them.
And Sally, thank you, Kathy. Sally Ray just put in the chat, what about trauma-informed practices? Have you all found that is missing?
Big time. I definitely did not know anything about trauma, anything from undergrad. And then it took me a graduate course on adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, to learn about what they were and how they were affecting my students. And I mean, I took the ACEs test to learn my ACE score, and I've done all that stuff. And it changed the way that I understand my students, and it changed the way that I speak with them in different circumstances. And it's huge. Ruby Payne's poverty book, it's like 120 pages. And then there's 120 pages of references throughout. It's a beautiful book, Dr. Payne, Payne. But yeah, I definitely feel, especially since everything going on with COVID, like our environments have changed. The way that I teach elementary music is so different. We spend so much more time going through the practice of how do we work with each other? How do we communicate? How do you pick a partner? What do you say to a partner? How do you talk with a partner? You know, if you don't want to be partners with someone, you can say, no, thank you. But you can't just say, no, get away from me. So we have to go through all of this stuff. And a lot of that is coming from these traumatic experiences, or these experiences that they haven't had yet because of the environment that we've been in, especially the past 3 years or so. So anyway, yes, I agree. Trauma is huge right now. And it has changed the way that I teach, knowing more about it.
So let's wrap all three of those, because Ashley, you touched on COVID. Let's wrap COVID, trauma informed, and race and ethnicity into the next few answers, if anybody else wants to tackle that.
One thing, oh, go ahead.
So through the work I've done at Oakland University, my focus has been on student mental health, and I started doing my research as soon as I started the program. So every paper I've done, I've researched student mental health, and that led me to send out questionnaires every other week to every single one of my students, to check in with them to see how they're doing physically, how are they feeling emotionally, is there anything that they'd like to share with me. And if they do choose to share anything, it can be a positive story, it can be something that's going on at home, really anything. I will write back to them, and that's created a huge, just a great flow of communication, because I have 36 students in every class. So it's a huge number, and I don't always have time, which some of the teachers may find if they're teaching high school. So high school is different. It's hard for kids sometimes to open up in the classroom because you have conversations going on. There's other students that can hear. They may not feel comfortable opening up to a teacher face to face, but they do feel comfortable emailing and sharing what's going on, and being able to say, hey, so-and-so's in the hospital, can I get an extra day on this assignment? Yes, of course, let me know how you're doing. So I have found that we do need, as teachers, to really check in with our students, because they don't always feel comfortable coming to us. And the students they're going through a lot. They do have a lot of stressors. They do have a lot of anxiety. And over the course of the years, probably other teachers can also comment on this too. There has been this year a lot more students who are needing to go into hospitalization for trauma. I've lost a couple students who've taken their lives. So it is something that we do need to take really seriously. And years ago, when I was a student, it was a long time ago, this was not something that was covered. It just wasn't, I don't think, as much of an issue maybe back then, but now it's something really every day. The kids they're going through a lot, and they need our support.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nanette, Karen, or Dawn?
I just want to add to just what everyone has been saying, that pre-service teachers really just need to know that their classroom is going to be filled with tons of different people that are different from them. And your classroom is your classroom. And you have to start there, and you have to build those relationships out. And if you don't know something, you have to ask someone smarter than you to help you. And it's okay to ask people for help. If you don't know, about a certain ethnic background, honestly, it falls on you to find out about that so that you can best help your student. And I think, I'm a million years into teaching, but new teachers have all of this umbrella, plus learning more about the students. And, that's what is so almost terrifying to new teachers, because they're like, how am I going to do all of this? And and just reach out to somebody smarter than you. And there's always someone smarter than you. I mean, the group that I work with this year of RTOYS, they are smarter than me. I love them. They have taught me so much. Thank you. And I'm not afraid to ask them, hey, what do you know about this? Or what else could I do here? And I've learned a lot. And it's, remind new pre-service teachers, it's okay to ask, but it's up to you. You have you have this classroom, and it's your job to nurture and grow them in the best of your ability.
Thank you. Dawn or Kieran?
I want to just say community, as in that's another thing too, is to be involved with your extracurriculars after school. There's not enough of that, as in go to the kids' sporting events that are in your class, go to plays and drama, and just be involved here at wherever they're working. And that helps with the kid too, to know that you care and that you're going. I do a lot after school tutoring I'm involved into, and like the Business Professionals of America is one of my groups where my kids will come to me, the kids that are in our group, and just to talk, because I've had suicide training, and we've had a couple too here in our buildings in the last 3-4 years, and it's not pleasant when that disrupts your community. So I just say get involved to let that's community involvement.
Thank you, Dawn. Kieran, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I would add, a lot of the RTOYs have talked about that beginning of the year relationship building, which is so important. But once the content starts, that can't end. So there have to be things that you're doing daily, weekly, to get to know them. This year I started, when we have a quiz or a test, they have their name in the upper right corner. It no longer says name with a blank, it says Math Rockstar, and then they put their name next to it. And then below it, there's a question to answer, like my favorite TV show, my favorite song, my favorite whatever. Because it's just starting, even though you're in assessment mode and you're kind of stressed, I want to know about you. And you can learn a lot through a few of these, just getting a sense of who these kids are. That hello when they walk in the door every day makes a difference. And they'll sometimes tell you that later, but not always. But having someone say, hey, good morning, and calling them by name makes them feel that they belong there and they have a place. And that's really what it's about. And all the other things will happen because they'll feel comfortable enough talking to you and telling you who they are.
I totally second that. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, so Friday fun questions. Well, if you could have any superpower, what would be? What do you want for dinner? What's your favorite ice cream? You know, what's the dessert that you want? And then just go up and down the rows. It takes all of 3 minutes to get through, 30 kids, just rapid fire, but everybody gets to share and everybody gets a voice.
Marcia, I have 2 more questions. Is that okay? Okay. The next question is, and then we have a fun question to end for the RTOYS. What is your most valued collaboration with an ed prep program? How have you worked with an ed prep program to help someone, or help your classroom, or help your content area, or help a student candidate, or get tickets to a football game? What's the best thing that they have helped you with?
I can't touch. Oh my God.
I don't know if I have a best with just an ed prep program, but I've had several former students come in. So we have early middle college in our district. So instead of having AP courses, you can be, a sophomore and start to take high school classes. And we have students who want to go into ed. And so they're taking their sort of practicum classes. I've invited them back in, and just having those high school students that are seniors working with 7th and 8th graders, that's beneficial, I think, to me, to have those kids back, because you have kids who are, maybe 3-4 years older than them, and they really kind of listen and look up to those, their older counterparts, especially with our football players. I'm in a small rural district. Football is life. And so last year I had a student who's big linebacker, great kid. He's probably going to go D1, maybe D2. We'll see. But having him in the classroom to help some of those other students who were, maybe a little bit more challenging, they might not listen to me as much as they would listen to Ian, who I had in the room. So it was just nice to be able to have those kids back and hear their perspectives as well.
Great, thank you, Dustin.
Jen, I don't know if this really addresses your question or not, but I would love to be a part of teacher prep in universities around us. And I think this year as being an RTOY has really helped me to see that we all have a voice, and having people ask us, well, what's your experience and what do you think, has been amazing. And this experience today is exactly what I'm talking about. So I would love to be invited anywhere that someone would want me to come and talk to teacher candidates. And we've already done some of that already, but I think all of us are probably open to that and sharing what we know. And we're not experts at all. We're still learning every day and changing what we do. But the only thing we have on our side is a lot of time, and for some of us more time than others of us. But we're open to that. So.
Perfect. And CMU has done an outstanding job. Give a shout out to Mindy Keck with the Teacher Candidate Conference. The RTOYS do an amazing job every year, and we keep getting asked back. So we will go anywhere. We'll travel. So
Karen, we are
yeah,
experts. Karen, we are experts. You're being too modest. We're experts. To
okay.
do what we do, you gotta be an expert.
So the last question is, what happened on your best day in your teaching career, and what happened on your worst day?
Can I go real quick? And
Yes.
I gotta pick my kids up from lunch. Unfortunately, my worst day I'll do first. December 15th, 2015. December 1st, 2015. We lost a student, unfortunately, to gun violence. The next day, I thought that because she was a very popular young lady, I thought that these young people were not going to show up, probably stay at home. They had all of the 8th graders go into the cafeteria. Came around, as teachers, I was upset. Staff administration was upset. I didn't think the children would show up. Went in there. We had roughly a 98% attendance. And the resilience from these young people impressed me to the point that I had to get myself together to stand in front of them, because it was just a tragic thing that happened. Of course, when a young person that age 14 loses their life, but that's my best and my worst day, because we lost her, but I saw the resilience in these young people and how they just galvanized together, and they lifted each other up. And they carried on until when they were promoted. I still see a lot of them today, and it just reminds me of that day when we lost Aaliyah, and then the following day when they all showed up, and that just kind of boggled my mind, that some of these young people are kind of like, people in war, that they just keep moving. You have one fall to the side, and they just stick together and they just move as a group. And I just thought that was that's just one of the most amazing things to me that I'll always remember in my teaching career, of how they just came together in spite of this tragedy. First student I ever lost, and I've lost students, but after they've either grown up or various things in high school. But this was one that I actually had in the classroom, and that was probably obviously my worst day. But the next day when we dealt with the young people, that was my best day.
Thank you, Carl.
All right.
Thanks for showing up too. Appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. I have to pick my kids up from lunch. I'm glad I could join you all.
Thank you for coming.
Anybody else want to give their best or just best? You don't have to give a worst.
Well, I can give a worst. It was March 13th, 2020, because that was the day that all the teachers were at school and there were no kids there. And that is a terrible feeling. It was terrible. And we didn't know what was coming. So kids did come in and they said, well, what are we going to do? Are you still going to teach us what's going? And I'd say, I don't know. I don't know. And I've never felt so helpless as a teacher because I wanted to reassure them, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And that was definitely the worst day because of the unknown and that I couldn't be a support for them. And I knew they needed it, but I also didn't know what to say. So that was definitely the worst. But I can't pick a best because there are so many of those little moments that make your day a best. And it might be some kid comes in and says, hey, I just invented a new number I have to show you. Or, hey, I just found this, or I just found that, or just a day when you just have a breakthrough with somebody. Those are all the best day. I don't think I could pick one that stands out. And that's why I feel so lucky to be in this profession for as long as I have, because it's amazing. And people outside of us don't know what that's like, but we are just so fortunate.
Thank you, Karen. I think we all
So-
felt the way on March 13th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my best day didn't happen actually in the classroom. It happened several years later. It was my first year of teaching, and I, of course, stumbled through it like everybody does their first year. And I had a student who, she was a rough student, and I'm not even sure if she actually graduated on time. But I received a phone call one evening on my landline. So this was a little while ago. And it was that particular student. She was grown, she was married, she had kids, and she just wanted to reach out and thank me for believing in her and for helping her, to get where she is today, and to apologize for all of the grief she had given me as well. So to me, that was, I could have retired after that moment. I felt like, if our jobs mean anything, that's what we want to hear. And we don't know where a lot of our kids end up. And there's a lot of kids out there who probably don't reach out, but that was really special to me. And I'm not going to talk about my worst day.
Thank you, Stacy. Dawn?
I'm going to go on something like what Stacy said. I like it when my alumni come back, and I have one that I went to a fall leadership or a regional leadership thing just this past December, on December 20th. And I had about 9 of the students come back that have been with me they've been out of school for about 5-6 years. And they came to help at our BPA regionals, and just seeing what they're turning into, and that right there, I was like, Stacy, I could retire right now and be happy. So just seeing that. So I'm not going to say worst. If my worst, I still remember 3rd hour 911. Worst day for me.
Yep.
I have lots, like Karen said, it's so hard to pick because there's so many, and especially over 20 years, I have a lot. But recently, in my new role, I get to go up to the high school. My 8th grade, the 8th grade is at the high school. So in my coaching, I have an 8th grade teacher that I coach. And so going up to the high school, it's just, I love it. My former 7th graders that are seniors and juniors and sophomores and fresh, all of them, they'll just come running up and they're like, Mrs. Lane, and they just give me big hugs. And it's so nice to see the ones, just all happy to see me, that I'm sure in 7th grade when I was making them write essays, they were not so happy to see me. And so it's great to get the big hugs and see my former students. And I love that.
Thank you, Kathy. Ashley?
I'll go.
Oh, Dustin. Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, I'll try and do it without crying or like tearing up. I don't want to do the worst day, but so for me, it's just always nice to hear kids say, oh, do we have to leave your class? Or, oh, your class goes by so quick. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I made it exciting for you. But my best day actually happened, well, in the summertime. I used to work for Lutheran Social Services, and I was essentially a tutor for Burmese refugees. So these are kids who have lost their families. They came into the United States under UN protection, and they were basically placed throughout the state. I was dealing with kids who were placed in Springfield and they were put in Battle Creek Central. And it was basically my job to help them get through high school. And I had a student, his name was Koom, great kid. I'm trying to do it without crying. So anytime that he didn't know a word in English, he would write it down in a little book and he would translate it into Burmese, then he would translate it into Tidium, and he would just ask you questions continually like, oh, what does this mean? And so I worked with him for 3 years. I got to see him graduate. That was amazing. And then I saw him at Hire, actually, like right over here. I was like, well, how are you? You know, I haven't talked to him in a while. He graduated from engineering school at Western. So he is now a mechanical engineer, speaks great English, a kid who barely spoke English when he got here. This is a kid who saw his parents, you know, killed in front of him. And now he's just, he's a model citizen. And so it's nice to know that you had, sorry. It's nice to know that you had an impact on that kid's life.
Right. And you will have an impact on his children's lives and his grandchildren's lives as well because of what you did, because of what you all do. Thank you, Dustin. Anybody else want to follow that? Okay. Well, Marcia, I think we're done. Unless everybody kind of gather themselves, but does anybody on the call have any questions for the RTOYS? I kind of took all of our time. I apologize. I wanted to get them as much time as we could to kind of give you all feedback. But if anybody has any questions, they're open to questions, or you can send them to Sean or me or whomever.
As people are composing themselves again after that emotional, I just want to thank all of you for coming and sharing with us, and sharing the stories and volunteering to speak to groups and like that. We'll all be working on ways of getting you more involved in our universities too. But just want to thank you for fitting us into your really busy schedules and the hectic times. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.